Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Get Hooked podcast, season 2.
Season 2. We're still in our second season. Don't know how they let us go this long.
I know. I feel like you say that every episode, but it's so true. Every time we come back, we are here and we're like, oh, we made it.
I mean, this is going to be like I say every week, but this is going to be the best one yet.
The best one yet. Yes. So this episode, we are coming to you in September, the second week of September, because as you know, Americans in all 50 states have taken extraordinary steps to show their appreciation just for the important work that professional truck drivers have done as we navigate our way through the coronavirus pandemic that we are still in. From children passing out lunches to I Heart Truck signs across America's highways, the public just taking notice of the central role that truck drivers play in our lives. We wanted to make sure that while we recognize that most tow operators don't typically view themselves as truck drivers, we want to highlight your contribution as well during National Truck Driver Appreciation Week this week, because there's over 3.6 million professional men and women who not only deliver goods and services securely, safely, and on time to make sure that we keep things going in life. But then there's you, the tow truck operator, who made sure that those guys actually had clear roads to get on. And the rest of us who are still operating out in the world, had a way to get to work. And if we had breakdowns, you were always there to support us and make sure that we got to where we needed. So we want to take this time to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate you so much. And this episode, in honor of that, we're going to talk about tow trucks. We're going to talk about tow truck equipment. We have a great guest coming on in a little bit, who's going to share with us, how to choose the right tow trucks for your business, why it's so important to understand the finances of running a tow truck business, and really how to prepare yourself by choosing the right trucks. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. I'm excited. Dennis, what about you?
I'm really excited. This is really where my heart lives. Trucking is the backbone of America. If you got it, if it's in your home, if it got delivered to your house, if you bought it at a store, it got there on a truck. If you bought a car, it probably got delivered to the dealership on a truck. If you got your Amazon package today, it got delivered from a truck. There's a theme here. I'm going with a theme here.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down, Dennis.
Okay. And if trucks are on the road every day, all day, who's keeping those roads clear? Who's keeping those roads safe? Our tow truck drivers. Our tow truck operators really are unsung heroes. They keep the roadways clear. They make sure that, when things do go wrong, that we can open up the roadways again. You can get to work. You can get to, to the store to go buy those things that got delivered on the truck. When that truck breaks down, they make sure it gets to where it needs to go so that freight gets delivered. So really, truckers are unsung heroes, but even more so, tow truck operators are even more unsung heroes because they really are the behind the scenes behind the scenes.
Yep. The behind the scenes. Yeah. So we definitely want to say thank you for that. And yes, so our guest today is none other than Jeff CEO of Worldwide Equipment Sales. 4 different locations for you to have access to all the great benefits. They're a parts dealer for some of the major companies within our industry, and just so much expertise. They have so many experts on scene ready to help you with all the decisions that you need to make. So we're going to bring Jeff on in just a little bit. But Dennis, actually, I had a question for you, because I know you basically grew up in the tow truck.
I did.
Yeah. So what are your favorite things about the tow truck today that you've recognized compared to like what you grew up in?
Oh man, so many things that are just standard equipment on trucks that never were in the past. I mean, I grew up with roll down windows and manual door locks and trucks that may not have air conditioning and just stuff like that kind of you kind of take for granted when you're in your car or even in a truck these days. technology has made life easier. It is, it's made getting in and out of the truck easier. It's made driving all day easier. I grew up with books of maps, behind my seat. Now you got, I know I'm starting to date myself here, but
like, I can't even imagine. I mean, listen, we were in a special generation where, it went from like the cassette tape, right, and then we zoomed past everything to streaming. So we can date ourselves. That's fine.
Now you got to, if you're putting your truck together the right way, you got at least a 6 or 8 inch screen. Sometimes you might have a 12-inch screen or even something bigger. Somebody's got some really nice, TVs built into the dash, but so it looks like it's a little expensive. But you got stuff to make your life easier. You got GPS technology. I remember hanging up my first GPS unit that I ever had was it looked like a little miniature Garmin television set.
Yeah.
It looked like a big old back TV set. Never stuck to the window properly, would fall off, hit you in the face on the way down, get wrapped up, the cord would get wrapped up around the steering wheels. It was probably not safe at all. But now that stuff is all built into your truck, or Apple CarPlay is like my favorite thing in the world. A lot of on the heavy side, that stuff is really just coming as standard equipment now on trucks to make everyone's life easier. You got satellite radio, and we'll talk a little bit more about things like that in a few minutes. But things that weren't there previously that we may take for granted as new technology.
Yeah, it's interesting to me as over this past week. Not my car. I had to get a car towed. And so I called a provider, and he showed up on the back of his flatbed. And you'll probably be more familiar with the tool, but there's a portion of the flatbed that actually folded down because it was a low profile vehicle. And I was realizing, I'm like, that's what people used to use skates for, right? Is if they needed to get that car on the flatbed, there wasn't normally that piece that would just automatically bend down to make it easier to tow the low profile vehicles. So I was realizing, I was like, wow, this is even more technology that's been added on to make the job of the operator a lot easier, instead of using those, quote unquote McDonald trays or, skates,
Yeah, skates, ramps. I mean, even, actual physical skates and race ramps are kind of fairly new technology to the industry. What you mentioned,
race ramps.
Yeah, you have race ramps that are build ramps that where we used to use blocks of wood to kind of build our own ramps to load low profile vehicles. Now, if you find yourself doing a lot of low pro vehicles, there are tools and equipment, and like you mentioned, there are even trucks that are specially designed to load at low angles and even have a little break in them to be able to load at an even lower angle. There are trucks that operate more like a roll-off body and get to almost a 0-degree load angle. And it all depends upon, what kind of business you're doing. If you're towing, accident cars all day long, maybe a 0-degree load angle isn't what you need. But if you're towing high-end exotics, it's a, special piece of equipment that is the right tool for the right job, and it really depends upon what you're doing. Same way as if I'm only towing cars, I'm not going to go out and buy a 25-ton wrecker. If I'm only towing medium duty vehicles, I'm not going to go buy a 75-ton rotator. It really is just knowing the equipment you need for the right job, and there are so many different options out there. There are so many different specializations out there, and yeah, you can go buy a basic truck that will get most of the job done. You can go buy a basic light duty truck, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the basics of light duty trucks these days. But you can get the right equipment for the right job depending upon what type of job you need to get done.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know what? Why don't we go ahead and bring on our guest, and let's talk about it. Let's hop into some of the options that you have and really get into the nitty gritty of making the best choices for your business. Without further ado, here's our guest, Jeff Erb.
Jeff, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And I'm sure anyone in the industry knows about Worldwide Equipment, but tell us a little bit about your history, how you got with Worldwide, and what you're currently doing now.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. I've been in the trucking industry for about 31 years, worked for major manufacturers such as Mack, Volvo, um, Detroit Diesel, Allison, kind of at distributor levels. 2014, I left Mack after 12 years and became the director of sales and marketing for Jordan. During that time, Pat Weiner owned Worldwide. He's in the Hall of Fame for the towing industry for starting up Towers for Tots, and Worldwide was an up and coming deal at that time, and they were later purchased by the Pritchard Group, who was a major chassis supplier in North America. The Pritchard family is about a 107-year-old business, and at that time, my relationship developed with their ownership, and they were a family-run business. Joe Pritchard is the owner, and then his daughter and sons run. His two daughters and son each run a division for him. It's a great family with a lot of great support, and so over the years, I developed a really good relationship with that family. And in 2019, Jordan and I decided to go different directions. We wished them well; they wished me well, and Joe Pritchett offered me the opportunity to come here and join the Worldwide Group and kind of take them to the next level, which is our goal. And happy to do it. We've got a great team here. We have 4 locations, stretching from Pennsylvania to Michigan to here in Rockdale, Illinois, out to California, and then we have multiple third-party builders throughout the country that help us keep our supply and demand going. So it's a great opportunity for myself, and it's even a better opportunity to continue to stay in the Jordan family, which I'm very passionate about, and to stay in touch with a lot of great people I've met over the years of coming into the towing industry. There's 2 occasions in life where people say your life's really going to change. One, when you have kids, right? And we all deny that. And we're like, oh, no, nothing's going to change. I'm going to be able to do what I want. Then you realize those kids change you. And I've made a lot of changes in my years with in the trucking industry, from going from a distributor to manufacturer and back to distribution. And when I took this towing opportunity with Jordan, everybody says, oh, wait till you meet the towing industry. And for the first time in their life, they were right. It's a great bunch of guys. It's a different way of doing business, and gals. It's amazing how many more and more women operators we're getting, how many more and more owners we're getting, and the diversity in the towing industry. So it's been a great opportunity. I've been here with Worldwide for 2 years, managing through some of the most challenging times I've ever seen. And I was telling my team this week in a meeting that, think about it, in my history, I've managed through 2 recessions and now one of the world's biggest pandemics and global changes in the history. So I said, if we can get through this, every other day is just going to be fine. So it's always a challenge every day to wake up and throw new knives at you, but we're dodging them and we're ready to go, trying to hit on all cylinders every day. That's the challenge. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's a few things I cannot argue with, that we can't argue with, which is, one, this industry is full of amazing people that you just continue to meet and grow together with. It's like a family. And then, 2, I totally forgot the second thing I was going to say, but actually, 2, this industry is becoming diverse, more diverse every single day. Like you said, there's more women becoming tow operators, and you're just seeing so many different things changing. So definitely great start there. And so interesting to hear just your background and how long you've been in the industry and the transition. So that's pretty awesome. You mentioned that, Worldwide has grown to now 4 different locations, stretching from California to Pennsylvania. And one of the major questions I always think about is, how do you help your customers determine what equipment, what trucks are best for their specific business?
This morning I got a phone call from a friend that his friend needed a tow truck. I kind of get away from price. That's always going to be a factor at the end. But my first 2 questions, and what our team tries to sell first, is what's your goal with that truck, right? We get a lot of people that want to buy your F550 with a 20-foot deck, and then a year later they're calling up and telling us their whole business is AT&T, 6-wheel, tool trucks, and it doesn't work. Well, that's not what we built the truck for, right? So first of all, we want to look at what is your core value, the core, position of that truck. What are you going to be using for? How long do you want to keep it? All those important questions, and we'll get to price, because that's the customer decision. But for us, we want to build a truck that you are happy with from cradle to grave, and we want to be there to service it from cradle to grave. So for us, it's very important to understand what you're doing with that truck. And even you get into the heavies, the guy will come and want to buy a 25-ton, and we'll say, well, what are you going to be towing? They're going to be like, oh, I got a waste management account. Well, a 25-ton may not actually handle the waste management account. So it's important that we understand what they're doing. But for the everyday tower, like the guys that are towing our wives and cousins and uncles and brothers, they're towing on the side of the highway and then, from the parking lots, we just want to make sure that the truck is going to do the job. And, if we can get away with an MPL 40, 8-ton wrecker, that's great. But, if you're towing, bigger stuff, then we got to look at the 12-ton and all that. So we get them focused on what their intent with the truck is, and then what they need for space and tooling on that truck, and what they might need for equipment. There's some states that run different lights than others. So it's always a process to slow them down. Everybody wants everything tomorrow. I'm no different. If I go to the store and they don't have it in, it just blows my mind and I can't get over it, right? But we want to just slow the process down and make sure that we're delivering to the customer's expectations. And the only way
I can't order a truck and have it ready tomorrow?
Not in this market. I would have told you.
I can't just.
I just hung up the phone. Jordan had their monthly dealer meeting, and that was one of the big things. And we had our sales meeting yesterday. And it's really today's market. We have to manage the customer's expectation, make sure we're being clear with the customer. And I tell my team all the time, you can't deliver to the customer's expectations if you don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. So it's extremely important for us at Worldwide to understand what you're trying to accomplish and how we can help you get to that goal. And then manage that process while the truck's being built, keep you updated on that. We don't always do a great job of it, but we try to do our best. And we also always try to deliver a first-class delivery. So, and those are just, we're in challenging times today. One of the questions is how we dealing with this disruption of, the chain supply and the supply chain. It is, boy, it's an everyday affair. We just got notice yesterday a major chassis supplier is cutting their production in 2020 down by 30,000 units. And they're delaying the launch of a product that some of us even already have on the road, but they're not building any more for 2 years because it's going to interfere with the rest of their chassis. So every day is a new challenge. Yeah. And it's from little things, all the way, think about it. My kids just went back to school, and my wife had trouble finding notebooks. And, when I talk to our build shops, I'll be like, what's the holdup? This week it's box brackets. Next week it's PTOs. Anywhere even down to right now. So on the bigger stuff and like your mid-size stuff, like your extended cab international Freightliners, some of our customers want inverters in them. And getting electrical equipment, lights and inverters is, a challenge. And, you always proud of yourself. Oh, I got 3 months supply, but how quickly 3 months supply go away. Mm-hmm. It's just been, I wish I had more team members on my team to manage the challenges that we face on a daily basis. And even trying to manage the customers right now to understand that believe me, we get paid to deliver a truck to you. When we don't deliver a truck, we don't get paid. So we want that truck delivered as well. We want that part delivered as well. We're very sorry your truck is down for weeks. There's an OEM right now that's anything with Cummins right now, getting depth sensors and all that is a huge thing. And I've been. It's a challenge, and we're dealing with it, and we're hoping every day that the customers are understanding it and trying to be patient. But I'm sure their customers don't want to wait 4 days to get their car towed, and we understand that. So
yeah,
we have increased
that. More and more, I'm starting to realize that the effects of this pandemic wasn't just, people taking their cars off the road and there being less jobs for the actual tow operator. It's affecting you as the equipment sales, as the distributor. Like I didn't realize that was going to affect like the backlog of just things that we need to actually do jobs. So it sounds like that's been challenging on the labor front, on the equipment front, on everything. I mean, it's like it's all bleeding together, right? Like our personal lives and then like our work lives. Like you mentioned, like your wife couldn't even find, notebooks for the kids to go back to school. I'm just like, wow, we've been affected across the board. So that's something I hadn't thought about until this moment.
Sure. Yeah, it's we'll get through it. I mean, we're resilient people, and we'll get through it. And I just want to make sure for our team that we're helping the customer get through it. And we've increased inventory levels to take on more toolboxes and PTOs that we normally don't do. And I'm very fortunate. I have ownership that gets it and is willing to put out that money for instead of having 3 months supply, we have 6 or 7 months supply. And that's important, but we can't always get that type of supply when we want it. So,
yeah. Now with this, go ahead, Dennis. Sorry.
So I know we just touched on this a little bit, but if I'm a tower in business today and I'm looking to expand my fleet or maybe make some upgrades, what should we be looking for right now in this market?
I would tell you right now to go as plain Jane as possible.
So no sunroofs, LED light packages, full on.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, every time we throw a color into a manufacturer, whether it's Ford, Dodge, Peterbilt, Jordan, that process is getting slowed down. So basically, we build our standard carrier with a 20-foot deck on a F550 or 5500 Dodge. With a 20-foot deck and 2 toolboxes and the ancillary, straps and chains that you need. And that's awesome. And I would suggest you go out and make some money and come back and we can add that stuff later. But all the lights on the grills and all that, if for some reason we missed a bolt hole or it's adding more time. Some lights are taking 4 to 6 weeks to get. God forbid a rivet on the grill broke while we were doing it. Can't even tell you if I can get that grill fast enough. So what we're trying to recommend right now is we'll do your custom work, but let's build your truck as quick as possible. And it's probably a 6 to 12 week time to get a chassis right now. That is new. Unfortunately, everything that we have coming in right now is sold, and we're averaging probably 2 days on the lot, but we don't have. Normally, we stock about 150 trucks throughout the organization, and we just don't have it between manpower, factory delays from all our suppliers, no matter who it is. We're just struggling, and we're getting through it, and our customers have been greatly patient with us, and we appreciate that. But right now, if you ask for a truck today, I would ask you to keep it simple and take what we have coming off and try not to go too crazy custom. But you got a brand to represent, so that's important.
And when we talk about, the plain Jane trucks that are out there today, I mean, it's still an upgrade over what you had even 7 to 10 years ago. I know most of these trucks are, automatic windows or power windows and power seats and all that stuff are pretty much standard on almost all models these days. So it's not like you're talking about a plain Jane truck with roll up windows and, you got to get that hand crank going.
You look at it, right? I've got sons are getting their licenses right now. I have twin 16-year-olds and
watch out now.
Yeah. So they'll never know what a roll-up window is. They'll never know what a 5-speed is, right? They'll never not know what it's like to have a 7 to 8 inch TV in the middle of their screen.
Right.
You know, I started working for my dad when I was 16, driving trucks, and then moving up to the truck line, where I would beg him for AM/FM radio. You know, and then my dad, I used to beg him for Chrome, and he's like, "Show me where Chrome makes me more money for delivering for free."
Right.
You know, so we had spoke wheels. You know, so it's yeah. These trucks are, you know, I have to tell you, I get into some of these trucks, and I have a beautiful 2021 Dodge 1500 series company vehicle with all the bells and whistles. And when I get into one of our tow trucks, I'm going, there's nothing different than, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so these are pretty, our drivers are very lucky today. We have, you know, all the bells and whistles in these trucks. And, of course, we're always looking for new ways to get more bells and whistles in there to make their job safer and easier, you know? So,
yeah.
I remember plenty of times jumping in trucks without air conditioning. That there was it wasn't that the air conditioning didn't work. There just was no air conditioning in the truck.
Sure there was. You rolled the window down and you stuck your head out, right?
Yeah. 365 air conditioning.
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
I'm sorry. As the non-operator here, let me just clarify. So you're saying at some point trucks were built without AC?
Absolutely. No condensers, no compressors on them, and that was it. They rolled down the window and drove really fast.
Yeah.
God bless
it was hot days.
Had to deal with that. Now,
you had to manually roll down the window and step on it.
That I remember. That I do remember. You know, leaning across the driver or the passenger seat to roll down that window. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. To this day, I'm like, ooh, thank God for technology. But I just didn't know how far back it goes. So over the past, over the past 20 years, how has technology changed dramatically? I'm just thinking from that to like where we are now. What's some of the major technological advances in the tow truck?
I think you have to break it down, right, to the chassis and then to the body, right? If you start with the body, you know, you take like the just simple things like dual winch release.
Yeah.
The Jordan with dual controls, that wasn't always the way it was, which allows you now either to be on the non-traffic side and have the same control and same usage of the bed, even to, now we put a lot of remotes in the trucks for winch release or just to control the whole body. It's a cost to the end user, to the towers, but I think it's hard to put cost on safety, and how do you put cost on, how do you put that, right? Where, you know, to add a control, whatever it might cost, a remote to run the whole body, how do you put that, a value on that one, that your driver can be over the guardrail safe, or can be sitting in the cabin doing a little bit more in a sound structure. So I think from everything from the bodies and how they're being manufactured today, with better angles, to the remote systems that we have, even the lighting systems that, you know, from Mayberry lights on top to what we have today, where, you know, if you look at the light too long, it's like watching a welder. It burns your eyes. You're like blinking for a couple of days. From that lighting system to the radio systems at the inboard computers in a truck, and even to how clean a truck runs today. And I know some of the viewers, when they see this, are going to say, "What, are you kidding me? I'll take a pre-emissions truck any day of the week." And I, from a guy who grew up in diesel, I get it, understand it. But from an overall standpoint, the truck runs more efficient today, which is the goal. Hopefully, some trucks don't, and we will fix those. But for the body technology on the Jordan side, especially where the poly body, which doesn't rust out, so which means an operator can and an owner can really get a life out of that truck beyond their payments, right? And so I think that, you know, even to like our Landau side of the business, and how they're constantly looking at air systems and scaling systems to help make sure the driver is legally towing on the road. So I think, and listen, there's some phenomenal training courses out there for owners and operators and towers these days that weren't there 20 years ago. You know, you learned as you lost the strap down the road. Oh, that didn't work out, you know.
We call that the hard way.
Yeah, right.
Expensive way.
Yeah. So I think all that is starting to really take place. Miller does a beautiful job on marketing and showing the different ways to use their equipment, and the other OEMs, Jordan and RC, are coming right behind with that stuff. So 20 years ago, you learned by, here's the keys, let me know how you make out. And today they can, take all kinds of training classes. The shows are filled with training opportunities. I'd like to see more financial training classes out there.
Yes.
For the owners and the towers. There's some great courses out there that you have to look deeper than what they're saying they're going to get. But I think we could do a better job on teaching them how to financially run their businesses, and which is not always. There's some very good people out there, but there's not a lot of these owners are also operating at the same time, and there's only so many hours in a day that we can focus on the core business and then the paperwork on the backside, right? Yeah. So I think that's just as important as the technology coming out. And look at you guys, technology company that's trying to help make their job easier, which wasn't here 20 years ago. So it's really great to see all the progress that's happening from the chassis side to the body side to the systems that we can use to, keep their tow trucks, they're running every day. They can spin. Tow truck only makes money when the wheels are spinning. Oh, yeah. And programs like yourself help, and the educating of the drivers is even better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we love education. We're always talking to educators in this industry across the spectrum. We try not to hone in on anyone in particular, but we've made some great friends along the way, and driving the conversation. You mentioned remotes. I know the first time I jumped in a truck jumped in a rollback that had a remote, my mind was blown. We had them on the heavy duty side for a while, but when they first started coming out in light duty sector, and it wasn't a self loader, it was a rollback, and I go, this makes my job so easy. I don't even feel like I'm working anymore. I can sit in the car and steer it up. I don't need to go back and forth and run back and forth to control and spin the wheel and go back, and just little things like that really make your life easier. And like you said, Jeff, safer. Like I can stand on the other side of the guardrail, winch this car up my deck, and really just be safe. My customer can be safe and make the world just a slightly better place.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. I'm an older person that's very well equipped with electronics, but to see how my kids operate electronics, and and as I was teasing my dad about Chrome and growing up and cell phones and all that was our technology. It's going to be interesting to see how much longer before we're not using the controls with your cell phone, or which would be a lot easier, because one of the fears you get with control, having remotes, is how they lose them, right? No matter how annoying we make the buzz box inside the cab, they're still losing it. But how many people are losing their phone today? I know, if I don't feel my phone in my pocket, I don't know what to do, So I think the sooner we can get the controls set up on our phone, I think is the next great technology that might actually help us. As much as we all spend too much time on our phone, it's still nice to only have to carry a certain amount of things, and remotes do get lost if we're not careful late at night out in the dark and stuff. So hopefully that we
or middle of the day too.
Yeah. So hopefully we can continuously make that process a lot easier. But we always got those guys that like to feel the truck, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, Jeff. Though, I'm just thinking, I'm like, is that something you just created just now? Are we breaking the idea on this Bluetooth connected? No, I
probably gave away a secret too that I learned from the factories and all that. Okay. I don't know where that technology is. There is a huge cost to technology, and the tow truck owner today, their costs are gone up faster than inflation's gone up in the last few months. It's going to go up even more in 2022. No matter where you're buying a truck from, your truck's going to be more expensive. So when we add these technology, the end user ends up paying for it, and that's the tower, and they can't seem to get their rates to match the same rate that their costs are going up. So I think even more now, it's important that these businessmen and women start looking at it from a business standpoint and understanding cash flow coming in and managing their truck payments and all that. So it's really going to test all of us to manage our money and our funds. And as a dealer, I mean, we have what's called floor plan, and it's, you know, we manage that to the tilt, because the higher our floor plan is, the more our interest costs are, and you know, we're always trying to keep our costs at one level and profits on another level, and that's not a dirty word. I mean, we all need to pay our bills and pay our employees and make a little money to reinvest in it. And so it's in 21 and 22 and beyond, it's really going to be important that we understand those words and understand cash flow and what it is to save money in the bank, you know? So it's great to buy a truck with no money down, but if you're not keeping your truck through the period of the loan, they're always surprised at how much they still owe. And there's other ways to manage that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up the idea, the topic of financing, because I don't think it's something that is talked about enough in spaces where it needs to be talked about. You know, I know, you know, are you attendee of tow shows, Jeff?
Oh, yes. My wife used to accuse those as my second family. Yeah.
Was she wrong, though? Was she wrong?
Well, listen, you couldn't do my position in a previous life without attending the shows and being part of the community to get the growth that we were trying to get from Jordan at the time. So the tow shows are great opportunities. Like you said, it's like going to visit, you know, I grew up in the 70s where on Sundays and Saturdays you visited family, and that's what the tow shows are like. They're like visiting family, right? You didn't turn the TV on Sundays, you only had 10 channels anyway. So, but you know, that's what the tow shows are like. It's a great opportunity to, you know, see your competitors. It's a great opportunity to see your customers. It's a great opportunity just to get out of the everyday life and see how everybody else lives and visit some great places. And I've been very, very fortunate. I don't think from 2015 to 2019, I don't think I missed a show. And it also helped me in my American airline points to get to the status I'm at. So I'm not really arguing, you know.
I'm with you there.
Yep. Get to take those family vacations just a little less expensive.
Listen, we planned those. It's more about where I'm sitting in the plane.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Say less, because exactly. Need an aisle or a window. Do not put me in the middle. Well, I asked, and you're so right. They're all just like, you know, mini family reunions on a Sunday afternoon. Like you're just hanging out and having a good time and talking. And so I asked because I've noticed that, you know, several shows, there's these little seminars about how to run a tow business, the finances behind building your business, you know, all the things that go into it. And, you know, have yet to attend myself, but I just think that those are great resources for people to start thinking deeper about the cost of running their business and the ways that they can either mitigate some of the overhead that they have, or really think deeper on, you know, on what that, you know, accounting spreadsheet looks like when they get back home and they're trying to figure out, you know, the cost of running a truck. Like you said, once the truck is moving, there's a certain cost and you need to know what that cost is. So I'm glad you brought that up, Jeff.
Yeah, there's also a break-even point on that truck, right? When's a good time to trade your truck and when's a good time not? And I could give you an erroneous number, but that number all depends on your business. You know, I grew up with my dad who, you know, he wanted to cut the truck up at the end of the day because we ran it for 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? That's when pre-emissions, you got 1,000,000 miles out of a Cummins engine or a Cat engine. So his idea of a new truck was he'd paint it and put a seat in it for you and you were happy. You know what I mean? But that's not today's market because, you know, not only are rates so competitive, employees are competitive, right? That employee is always being asked to come to another place, and, you know, I'm sure the Lure is a nicer truck, or, whatever that option that next employee incentive is, right? And that's really what it's coming down today, right?
Yeah.
Is what are you, we're trying to build a culture here. And we constantly say, welcome to the worldwide family when we bring a customer in. You're part of the family. We want to be your, we're going through a rebranding process right now. And part of the slogan is we want to be a towing and transportation solutions partner. And I mean that by being a partner. Your truck break down, we want to get it in and get it out, or we need to go to bat and get you extended warranty, whatever that is. We want to keep you from cradle to grave as a customer. And so our incentives of doing that are getting challenging, right? So imagine what it is to keep employees. I have 11 techs just in the Chicago market, and my cost to maintain those techs keeps going up and up because someone else is willing to pay this. We have this giant box company down the street that wasn't here 20 years ago that is offering $18 an hour to take your online order and put it in a box and ship it. And that's a lot cheaper than being a mechanic with $40,000 worth of toolboxes. My shop looks like mini motorhome storage out there with all their toolboxes and all the equipment they need. And you sit here on a weekly basis, watch Snap-on and Matco and all these tool guys coming in that these mechanics are constantly have to buying tools for the next job. So that's the same thing that the owner is dealing with as a tow business. He's constantly got a driver that's being wooed by another company for better hour wage, better truck, and all that. So I get it, and we get it tremendously how the pressure that a tow owner is under today. You know what I mean? And having that new truck is one of those benefits that driver is looking for. Doesn't want to be in a 1985 F450 with roll down windows and no air conditioning. He wants to have that dash. He wants to be able to plug his phone in and be comfortable. And so they need to understand what that cost is, and they need to be upfront with that cost when they're running their business and managing their profit, Mm-hmm. So I think there's not enough emphasis on training these guys. There's some owners that are great and could be in the banking business, and there's some owners that, they started out working, they bought their truck, they worked their butt off. Now they have 5, 6, 7 trucks, and they're towing every day, and they love that part of the business, and something's going to get neglected, and that's usually where it gets neglected. So we try to work with that person when they're coming in here, go through it with them during the finance process, and help them understand, hey, if you trade this truck in at the time, you got more equity, can make this truck cheaper and all that. And I think they really need to, going into the new way things are being done, they really need to start really focusing on that end of the business.
So we're seeing, I know I've seen a lot of this lately, and there's, I think, been a dramatic uptick in the use of things like dollies. When I was coming up, and Jeff, I'm sure when you came up too, dollies were kind of a dirty word. They were big, heavy hunks of crap that you had to lug, and they were hard to use, and they were complicated, and they've gotten a lot lighter and a lot easier. And I think they've made it a lot easier now to tow. So many vehicles on the road today that are either all-wheel drive or have electronic parking brakes and all sorts of things that you would traditionally need a rollback for, and you're able to be a little bit more versatile. But are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing other trends and accessories, things like that?
Yeah, so first, listen, I didn't have the honor of towing cars. I've never had to do that. So I'm going to talk strictly from the guy who likes to sell those things, right? But knowing cars today and how they have to be towed, I am very familiar with that. And yeah, I mean, you used to sell a tow truck with maybe baskets on the side of it, and that was it. Now we're working every day to find new dollies where they come down on the bed, get lower for center of gravity, for more ergonomically way to picking them up, to aluminum, the way in the ditches make it. And even the bearing technology on the wheels is getting better, and then you look at like even some of the guys who on the bigger stuff that are making their own dollies now, and seeing those guys share that technology across the industry, which is one of the things I love about this industry, that a tower comes up with an idea and and he shares it, not worried about proprietary rights or anything like that. And they're really good about sharing technology and sharing, better ways of doing it. Some always not so polite, but for the most part, they mean well. They're trying to do it. And the dolly business right now is, in fact, this morning we had our meeting, which was all the departments, and my parts manager was all excited because we just got like 15 pallets of dollies. And he's like, oh, if that was scary, I didn't think we were going to be able to do it. And we had like 6 trucks waiting for dollies to deliver. So I think that's, again, to 20 years ago, dolly technology, the use of dolly, which is because of training, they're being taught now to use dollies, and we're not seeing so much damage to the vehicle like we used to see it, all that. Even, not dragging it. People don't understand dragging certain vehicles 6 inches can really hurt a vehicle. I have an electric car, and you'll never drag that car. If you do, you just bought my electric car. So we're going to need that. We're going to need that technology going forward in the dolly systems, and I'm looking forward. I think there's a great opportunity for growth in the dolly business as far as technology and how we do it. You know what I mean? So we just did a cool project with a flatbed how we made the dollies come down and almost on the ground, so they didn't have to lift them up and stuff. So it's we're being challenged to make it more ergonomical for the driver.
Sure. Nobody wants to have to, lift things over your head, and we're learning to finally work smarter, not harder.
I don't think the general public understands what it takes to do a recovery.
Not at all.
And they don't understand the weight of
absolutely not. We have zero
weight listen, we load heavies with chain kits, and after you load a heavy and fill that carousel up with a chain kit, you're exhausted. Yep. And these guys are doing this 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day. They're out. They don't understand that to recover a truck off the side of the road can take up to 20 hours, no matter how many vehicles we have out there. Or to pull a car out of the ditch on a slightly snowy day, with a standard wrecker, how much effort that takes and how much risk it puts that operator in. It's not that technology anymore. These young kids that are driving these wreckers and older gentlemen and women that are driving these records they got to use their head. You know what I mean? They got to understand stack block technology and how to get the maximum and how not to get hurt. And the more we can use dollies, the more that we can bring technology into the towing and training into the towing, it's only going to help the business of recruiting people and keeping people in the business.
Jeff, again, you and I mean, you're just slightly a little bit older than I am, but you've come a long way in this industry, and you've seen a lot of stuff over the years. I'm sure, in your day, you saw some mechanical stuff. I remember when I was a kid, running around with my old man, he had a couple mechanicals still hanging around. Hydraulics finally broke in and took over. Do you think we'll see an electric truck in our lifetime?
I think you'll see it a lot sooner than you think.
Oh, wow. Is that a big secret?
We're pretty blessed. One of the divisions for Pritchard is an electric vehicle division. In all of our facilities in the worldwide organization actually have charging systems installed. So we have partnered with some pretty big people like Polestar and Workhorse, and we've developed some vans and stuff that are pretty cool right now. And so that technology, where I'm going with that technology is coming a lot faster than people realize. There's some challenges that we face is how to integrate the hydraulic systems and how we maintain weight for payloads. So these are very passable objections that we have right now. But they're still being worked out. We're still partnering with some OEMs to understand all that. The biggest misconception in this business is payload, right? Not every ramp truck or carrier can carry everything. Not every wrecker can carry everything. And so when you start adding the weight of the batteries, the weight of the structure and all that, it equals out the payload, and we got to make sure that we have the right payload, because the electric cars aren't getting lighter. They're probably going to top out at, you know, a certain weight. We have to deal with the fact that the bed might change because you're not going to be able to drag it up on a flat bed. You know, could cause motor damage on the wheels. And then the way you tie it down is going to probably change. So when we see these vehicles, there's going to be a lot of infrastructure that we're going to have to teach and get the tower to use. So I think it's a lot. You're going to see a lot sooner than you think. I think more in the demo phase, but there is some technology being looked at right now, and I think it's going to equal out to where we're going. I mean, you can see these, electric trucks on the highway today, and if we can get the payload and the weight and all that stuff to meet the tower's demands, I think you'll see it a lot sooner than possible.
Looking forward to it. I mean, let's change the world.
You got to look at the biggest challenge. Like I said, is the other challenge is the hours of service.
Sure.
Right, and you'd have to start planning for that, right? If you can only get 500 miles per charge, and you got to take a truck from New York to Oklahoma, that 3-day trip is going to change. And then we also have to start looking at drivers' hours to allow for that charge and all that. So there's we're facing a lot of infrastructure, a lot of intercommerce changes that we're going to have to look at when we start looking at electric vehicles being fully used. Yeah. And I think that's all in progress right now.
Yeah, that sounds like a little bit of a crossover too. And I know this episode is about us really talking about like the tow truck and appreciating the tow truck, because it is going to be National Truck Driver Appreciation Week, which in my mind, I'm like, there goes a little bit of your crossover right there, because some of those standards have to be applied to the tow operator when you start thinking about the longer tows and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's great that we're celebrating the truck driver and listen, the tow truck, we call them the tow truck driver, but essentially we're driving a truck, right? Mm-hmm. And we do pickups and deliveries, has, the ABFs and the yellow freights do and all that. We should be celebrating it. It's a great job. And it takes a skilled person to drive a truck and to drive a tow truck. To have 53 feet behind you, or for us, we sell the Cottrells, right? To have 53 feet behind you, an 81-foot truck, and you got an F-150 sitting over your head that if you don't manage your braking distance correctly, it'll now be in front of you instead of over your head. And to make some of these turns and twists that we're required to do, and let's face it, we're not all the politest people when we get behind a wheel. So, I don't think the truck driver and the tow truck driver get enough applause or gratitude for what they do for us. And that's why I've been in this business for 31 years, because we're the backbone of this country, because you're not going to be able to do it with trains. You're not going to be able, Mm-hmm. The oil, food, everything that we touch today gets delivered by a truck driver, a skilled human being that gets up every day and takes on their job. And I think that's phenomenal for us. And the tow truck driver is no different. Still a truck, still gets up. I mean, at 3 a.m, they're out there doing wrecks. In the coldest days, and heck, when there's 6 feet of snow, you call your car club, and a person shows up to help you out. Yeah. And they could call it in and say, you know what, it's 2 feet of snow, we're not coming out, right? So they could do a lot of those things, and we could stop as a country. So it shouldn't be just a week; it should be a month, right? Maybe even longer. It's a great
every day.
Yeah,
it's a great career.
Yeah, and I think
we manage a career.
It took maybe this pandemic, unfortunately, for people to realize just how important and special and, like you said, like the backbone of this country, this industry, it really is. And it took the pandemic for us to really recognize that. And, to take it a step further, for people to recognize just how essential tow truck operators are and this industry, Yeah.
We're in unprecedented times, which is a word I can't believe I'm using, but it is what it is.
It is. So it is. We things are
Yeah.
things are not normal, but we're getting to a point where we are getting comfortable in the world that we're living in, and we really have to make it better. We really have to do things to make it better. And if that means, cleaner emissions, if that means, electric technology, if that means, safety features on trucks to make sure, operators are working from the non-traffic side, whatever we can do to make the world a better place, we should always.
Yep, absolutely.
I agree. And I think there's also, the more organized we are, the more we can be part of those changes. And I think we are taking too much control away from our drivers today with all the technology. But that's just of my opinion and different skill sets. So one of our biggest challenges is picking up a truck and it only has a top speed of X, Y, and Z. And you're used to a full throttle. And it's hard to tell someone that that's what the OEM wants. You know what I mean? And and I think there's some things that we could do differently. That I'd like to see, but that's going to take us as a group of distributors, manufacturers, and drivers to say, hey, wait a minute, we might be taking this too far.
Yeah.
Be part of the conversation, though. The industry needs to be a part of the conversation. So there is a middle ground for what works for the industry, but also what works for the future and what works for the world at large.
Yeah, I think that's what's great about these forums like you're doing today, is getting people involved and be able to watch these things and hear other people's opinions.
I mean, someone has to have the conversation, and that's why we're here, right? And you start more conversation about some of these things to elicit change. So, you're absolutely correct. And, Jeff, I love your call for a coalition of everyone coming together, regardless of what side of the industry you're on, come together to have the conversation. So then we can go back to our initial, to our different segments and then make changes from there based on what we come together and listen to. So you're absolutely correct. And, I'd love to hear more about what your ideas are as far as what should be given to the truck driver as, what capabilities should be given versus what is now being overridden with technology. So that's one of the things I did want to know about too, is like, what are the new capabilities that are on the horizon for tow truck operators in the truck? What are some of the changes that have recently been made or that you think will be made that are going to be useful?
I think you're going to see a majority of changes coming from the front end of the truck. I mean, they're federally regulated. They're under mandate to do those changes. And that's, at the end of the day, we're just going to, huck bolt or weld on the back half of the truck and we're going to, wire into the control boxes, the ECMs and ECUs. And that's our job, really. It's the biggest change for the operators and the owners and the drivers and everybody is going to be the front half of the vehicle. And whether it's an electric vehicle or diesel vehicle, your emission standards are going up every 2 years now, making it harder and harder to meet from an engineering standpoint. The speed of a truck based on the tire rating, cruise control. And if you look at some of these big fleets, they've got monitoring systems in the trucks. You can tell how long how long the truck is idled from. The truck can be in Massachusetts and the company's based out of Arizona. They can monitor how long the truck has been at a location, how far off course he is, what's his average speed. All Big Brother all over you, and that's it's challenging. There's some good news about it, that they can take a young driver and say, hey, you're about to go down a road that you won't fit in, stop. But at the same time, they can also drive that driver crazy because, some of these bigger trucks out there can only go top speed is 67 miles an hour. And, that's challenging for a driver to get from point A to point B in 11 hours at a certain mile per hour rate. And, as a guy who has 4 drivers underneath them, it's always interesting to see how some drivers are managing to get their logbooks right and some aren't. And you can't do that. It hurts your DOT number and it costs you more money in insurance and all that. So you do get what the technology is bringing,
So Jeff, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you being here and having this talk with us. We love talking to people who are forward thinking and who like to talk about technology. Where can our listeners and our viewers, where can they find you? Where can they find the Worldwide team?
Well, listen, first of all, I want to thank you all for letting me be on the show. And listen, there's a lot of great things happening in this industry, and will continue to happen because we have a lot of pioneers and entrepreneurs in this business, and that's what makes it so great. If you want to find us, you can find us at newtowtrucks.com, or you can find us in Greencastle, Pennsylvania, Livonia, Michigan, Rockdale, Illinois. You'll find us everywhere, and we're pretty active on Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff. And look for us at the Las Vegas show and Ohio show and Baltimore, hopefully. Most of all, thank you to all the tow truck owners and operators, and we appreciate everything you do for us, and we appreciate being partners with you. Thank you, and thank you, Honk, for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, and good luck with this show.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, guys, that was an amazing episode with our guest Jeff. He gave us some just great bombs, and bombs by bombs. I mean,
truth bombs,
action bombs. Form a coalition, work together. Let's make this industry awesome, even more awesome than what it is now. I almost said awesomer, but I stopped myself.
More awesomer.
Awesomer and gooder than this.
More better. More better. More gooder.
Well, as always, tune back in for more information that we're bringing your way. Of course, like Dennis mentioned, we're all about education here and continuing the conversation. So if you haven't already, be sure to make sure that you download the episode, like and subscribe to make sure that we can always come back here to bring you more of these conversations. And
if you're looking for Jeff and his team at Worldwide, it's newtowtrucks.com. It's at newtowtrucks on Instagram. That's such a cool name. I think it's a great URL. If you're looking for us, it's joinhonk.com. Sign up today. Sign up is free background checks for your operators. Get some additional work coming into your system, and we got some cool things on the horizon. You can also check us out every other Wednesday on the Honk Facebook page. We will be live with our compatriot Shelly Hawkins, and we do a great live show where we talk to some industry insiders and talk about tow shows and whatever else is happening in the industry. So check that out when you get a chance too.
We talk about everything: training, certifications, training, safety,
training.
We've had on some of our friends at BA Products, Erska, Wreckmaster,
American Towman.
Yes, to talk about tow shows. So, and upcoming, we'll have an episode about tow associations and why they're so important to you as a tow business operator and owner. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And of course, like Dennis said, catch us on our social channels on Instagram at Honk for Health. You can also catch us on our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/honk4help.
Or just log into your Facebook, search Honk. Makes it a lot easier.
Makes it easier. Yes, absolutely. And of course, you're on the right page if you see one of our faces.
Yes, you will likely see one of our faces somewhere.
Yes. And of course, we will be in Las Vegas on the upcoming Las Vegas show. That is later this week, the 15th through the 17th. So be sure to not only tune into this episode, but if you are there, come stop by the booth, say hello. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet you in person and do a cool little elbow fist bump situation. So make sure you tune in and visit us at the show there. We may or may not be going live, but we're always here for you. So.
And subscribe. It helps us out tremendously. If you like the show, like it on and subscribe to it. Give us 5 stars on whatever podcast, wherever you get your podcast from, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. Give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us out and bumps our stats up as well. Thank you.
And do one last thing for us and share the episode. If you know somebody that could use this information and some of the other episodes that we've had, make sure you share it so that way we can all work together to create better changes in this industry. And last but not least, make sure you get hooked.
Get hooked and stay safe.
It's always so cheesy when I do it. Bye.